Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Acolyte 1 Year Later rewatch show. If you've been following along, you already know the deal. We are rewatching the show with fresh eyes and honest takes, and we're taking it episode by episode. Episode 1 and 2 sparked some great discussions, and we loved seeing so many of you ask the same questions we keep on asking, which is why? Unfortunately, some of those questions were, why are you guys watching this show? And the answer is, because. With that being said, as we've said in all the other videos, please make sure that you're not only subscribing here at Clone Force 97, but you're also subscribing at Star Wars Nerd 00 and Tales of Peridia. These videos are launching on both of our channels. The way we edit them gives our own unique perspectives, even though we're discussing these episodes here together. So with that being said, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the future episodes that we have coming out of this rewatch series and any other future rewatch series that we decide to take a part of. With that being said, nerd, let's get into episode 3.
Yeah, this is about a year ago is where it fucking all fell apart for me. It got spoiled from me thanks to Commander Jesse. At the time, I was working overnight, so I was at work when everybody else was watching the episode. And I got on Instagram and was just scrolling through stories at like 3 in the morning, and I see Jesse's like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Said something about the Chosen One, and I was like, oh, great. Wonder what the fuck these guys did. And then I watched it, and yeah, it was not good. Definitely didn't like what they did. I mean, I already think that May and Osha's backstory, well, mainly Osha's, because we don't really know much about May's until this episode, really. But, Osha's backstory has already been way too close to Anakin, and, just the entirety of the events that basically surround this and episode 7. Essentially, to me, even now after rewatching it, it just feels like a soft reboot of The Phantom Menace. And even a year later, with all this knowledge, it just seems a bit too close to The Phantom Menace. I mean, we already got that argument of the sequels being, well, mainly episode 7 being A New Hope, just redone. And I can kind of see that, and that might also be influencing why I see it as a reboot of The Phantom Menace, but I just do. And it's just, I mean, I do got some good stuff for this episode. Like, I mean, I've seen other reviewers kind of bitch about like the CGI and like the sets that it looks like they're just using like a sound stage or whatever. But I liked it, the opening scenes with Osha and May. And I did like seeing exactly like how they act and how they treat things. I mean, you got Osha very soft and gentle, and then May, like we said in, I think it was episode 1, how she just let's torture this fucking butterfly thing.
That's actually the first note I have here. Is May tortures some kind of butterfly, showing her inner darkness. And it's showing that kind of inner child discovery as well, even though May takes it very dark. I think in episode 1, I compared it to, hey, I heard a worm can survive when you cut it in half, so you cut the worm in half. It's a little different here because her immediate thing is like, I'm really going to mess with this. I think her intention was to actually just kill this butterfly. And then Osha's like, May, why do you always have to do this? And she got on her. I get what you're saying about the Phantom Menace thing, and I've been looking for ways to kind of describe this or try to show the difference in it. It's still very close, but there are differences in it. So the birth of the twins, which really is something I guess we should say for episode 7, but it doesn't really matter because I think they mentioned no father here during episode 3.
Episode 3, that is why it feels like a soft reboot for this episode. But episode 7 is where it really kicks off into like, okay, so we're just fucking copy and pasting, but we're changing it a little bit so the teacher doesn't know we cheated on the fucking homework.
Yeah. So, and I'll repeat it again in episode 7, but I have something written down here because everybody, the big thing is like, it ruins Anakin's birth story because these girls have done it more than 100 years earlier, so it makes it ununique. I think the only thing that I can really say here is that Anakin's birth is still unique in its own right, because it wasn't a direct result of Sidious and Plagueis creating this Force child. Anakin's birth is the Force pushing back against Plagueis and Sidious for manipulating the Force, as well as trying to shift the balance too much to the dark. I think I compared the creation of the twins, even though they do have this arc that they're always one but born is two, which we hear that song in this episode, and please make it stop. But like it's not the worst chant that happens here, but I don't need to hear it as many times as I've heard it. But that's a nitpick. That's a me thing. I understand that.
Honestly, I
But
liked it more like when they say it. I think they say it in episode 2, maybe episode 4. Like they say
they
it
said
when they're
it
grown.
in episode 1.
They said it in episode 1. Did they say it when they're grown? I remember them saying it when they're grown, and it
Yes.
wasn't as cringy or bad as when they're kids. And I mean, they're kids.
I think it's episode 8.
Episode 8.
Episode 8 is when they say it as adults.
Yeah, like when they're adults, it's not as cringy and not as bad. And I know, like, kids, you know, I'm sure I said some fucking weird ass chants when I'm sure I still fucking do. But
the stuff that kids say when they're creating stuff is the same stuff as like people do when they're drunk. It's like, you know how many businesses I created last night while I was drunk or high, and then I woke up and I realized that none of that shit would work in the real life. But the reason, so even though there is that chant of the always one born is two, I don't think it destroys the Anakin legacy or copies on A New Hope as much as it really compares this coven for me to the witches of Dathomir, because that's what they are. They're witches. We saw them create Savage Opress. We've seen what the witches were able to do in terms of restoring Maul's mind and then helping him with these legs. So the witches, what they do here is they've created life. All witchcraft has a small amount to do with the Force. I think all witchcraft leans towards the dark side of the Force and manipulating it that way. I don't think there's any witches towards the light side. So it's kind of on the same lines of that the Darth Plagueis messing with stuff, but it's different because they're using this Force Nexus on Brendok to really enhance their abilities. These witches weren't really strong enough to do this on their own without this Nexus compared to what Sidious and Plagueis do. Plagueis and Sidious are literally strong enough in the Force that the Force recognizes it and says no and pushes back, gives birth to Anakin, and they find out about this child with no father 9 years after this experiment between the two. I do think that this experiment between the twins does influence Plagueis' learning. And he is Darth Plagueis the Wise. He isn't Darth Plagueis the know-it-all. He hunts for all this knowledge, and he's found Sith knowledge over time, and even talks about in the novel information lost due to generations of infighting or just information not passed down. I don't have an issue with Plagueis learning from these witches that, hey, I can manipulate the Force to do something different, but it's obviously going to take him almost 100 years to perfect it. So he learned something, he never truly figures it out, but it's what influences this learning pattern that we see that gets us to the Phantom Menace compared to actually diluting what we saw here. Like this, I don't think this dilutes it. I think it's slightly different, but it is close on the same thing, which is why there is the difference between the two stories for me.
see, I looked at it with a different lens because you mentioned that they have kind of like a purple hue whenever they're doing their chant. I actually noticed it this time. I could see Plagueis working with these guys, but at the same time, I feel like he would mainly just kind of, go search for Sith holocrons and try to figure it out this way. His main experiment wasn't trying to create life; it was just to extend his. And
Yep.
I wrote a lore video coming out soon. Shameless plug. About the exact moment when the Force tipped to the dark side, because it's about 42 BBY. I'm a little iffy on when this exactly happens because I just kind of, skimmed to the part where it actually talked about it in the book and wrote the lore video around that. But it said like Plagueis and Palpatine rediscovered something of old or discovered something new didn't matter. What mattered is that 10 years ago they were able to fully give in to the dark side of the Force, combine their two entities into one singular sovereignty, and basically forced the Force to tip to the dark side, and it was like a deity had been shoved from its throne and just
Yeah.
completely darkness, which is probably why they didn't sense Anakin, because 10 years later, obviously 42 BBY, fucking 32 BBY, fucking they talk about, then goes on to say that Plagueis kept fucking with Venomius and just kept letting him die and come back to life and die and come back to life until literally his organs just gave out.
Yep.
And
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit last week. The other thing I have for that as well is that the Chosen One prophecy is about balance. It's not the uniqueness of his birth. The prophecy states that the Chosen One will bring balance to the Force.
Chosen One born of no father. But I have seen arguments that the Chosen One title, since it's been around for ages, literally it could be each era's Chosen One. I mean, Anakin
Yep.
was obviously the prequel eras and the original trilogy's fucking Chosen One. Evan was technically the Old Republic's Anakin. He was their Chosen One. I mean,
Well, he was the light turned to the dark, turned back to the light, and then chose the dark. Is that how that worked for him? And I had that right?
I've read the Revan novel, but it's kind of weird because it picks up after Knights of the Old Republic, and I've yet to finish Knights of the Old Republic. But
I I need the remake to come out. Like, there's a lot of people who love the nostalgia and all those old, like 8-bit games or 64-bit games or whatever. But I just, I don't know. As much as I have fond memories with some games of that era for like Nintendo 64 or like GameCube and stuff, it's just nostalgia for me. I don't go back and play it. Like, there is almost like a 0.1% chance I ever play this game that Closet sent me. Like, it's cool, Nintendo 64, like it was a fun time in my life when I was a child, but I'm not going back to it because personally for me, my childhood is rooted in a lot of pain, so I don't find that I need to go back. So, but that's just my own personal story for that. Yeah, what I was saying here though, and the of no father, that I guess that does kind of matter a little bit, but obviously these two are gonna die before this happens. So what I have here is while Anakin's force created birth certainly leans or lends weight to Qui-Gon Jinn's belief that he found the chosen one, it wasn't the sole factor. It was really that midichlorian count and Anakin's kind of eventual actions, especially winning the pod race, because he's still, as of this point, the only human ever to do it.
yeah,
So there was a lot of things that really lead into that. I think I don't disagree with anybody who still has the gripe. I just think that what they thought that they were doing when they added this show was enhancing why Anakin is or why Plagueis is. I really don't believe that they went out here with malicious intent to destroy an entire storyline. They were trying to enhance something because this is going to lead up eventually, because they show Plagueis, and if this was going to get multiple seasons, I think we'd have some time jumps. This would lead us into the time that Plagueis gets Sidious, and then everything really kicks off for the Galactic Republic era. So I don't think it was their intention to dilute it.
I don't think it was their intention. Honestly, I think they were just really lazy and couldn't come up with a better backstory for their own characters.
So I don't disagree, especially with the lack of actual backstory we get for any characters in this show. I
Yeah.
don't I don't disagree with you.
Well, I mean, I put in here like they talk, like they have that training session, I guess you want to call it, where Anastasia is like showing them like the power of one, power of two, so on and so forth. But I say Anastasia talks about the thread and how some call it a force and claim to use it. Obviously, talking about the Jedi and all that good shit. But if you pull the thread and everything changes, it ties you to your destiny and binds you to others. And then she goes to show the power of one, the two, and the girls will experience the power of many soon while demonstrating force pushes and blocks. Which I understand other factions would call it something else other than the Force, obviously. But at what point is this magic? At what point is this the Force or the thread or whatever the fuck they call it? Like, there's no clear indistinction of what is magic and what's the Force.
That is an issue, I think, in Star Wars in general, because what the witches are able to do, the witches of Dathomir, that is, they border the Force. And I think witchcraft is a dark side of the Force thing, which is why you see the witches continuously team up with the Sith. I have written here the thread is not as annoying as people think it is. I do believe that it was nitpicking. I feel like the beliefs of this coven mirror the same as the path of the open hand or even the nihil that succeeded, because it seems like they're anti the force or the abuse of the force, just like what the path of the open hand believes. And I said the witches of Brendok say if you pull the thread or otherwise use the force, you're changing everything around you, which is where they relate. The way that they're different is that the Path of the Open Hand think that nobody should wield the Force in their early years, even though they're actually manipulated by a Force sensitive user. They just don't know it at the time. So they're saying that nobody should use it, whereas this coven is saying that you need to understand what you're doing when you use it. Once you pull the thread, it links you to your destiny. So that's where I think the Path of the Open Hand, which is the predecessor to the Nihil, the main enemy of the High Republic series, I think that's what kind of relates them. The difference is what do we call these people? Did they ever have a name? We just call them the witches on Brendok?
I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do they have a name?
I
I
genuinely
don't
don't know.
I forget. Yeah. So anyway, these witches on Brendok, the way that they interact with it is similar to the Path of the Open Hand up until it comes to actually using the Force or the thread.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it's literally just called. Well, according to Wikipedia, they're literally just called the Brendok Coven. That's it.
Yeah, so I said the witches on Brendok say that if you pull the thread or otherwise use the Force, you're changing everything around you. Manipulating the Force is kind of like a butterfly effect. That is something that the Path of the Open Hand definitely believes in. I don't think the witches. They just want their coven to know that hey, once you pull this, it links you to wherever this line leads, kind of like the multiverse that we have in Marvel going on. And then in regards to like the pushing and stuff like that, I wrote here, I definitely missed this in my first watch through. The meaning of the power of one, the power of two, and the power of many. When it's just the power of one, we see the mother easily able to defeat a member of the coven. When it's the power of two, you can see where Mother Anastasia struggles to push them away in the same ease that she had the power of one. They are even able to push her back a little bit. She then exerts more strength and inevitably achieves her goal, which means the power of many is to show when all these witches are connected in unison, they can accomplish greater tasks. This is no real difference than what the Jedi do, in my opinion, especially in this book right here. Shameless plug to my book collection. But in this book, The Light of the Jedi, during the Great Hyperspace Disaster, a bunch of pieces of a ship are flying out of hyperspace at enormous speeds to where they could literally destroy planets. This lady right here, Avar Kriss, is able to use the power of the song. She views the Force as a melody. That's the big thing with the High Republic, is that everybody views the Force differently. Elzar Mann, I think, views the Force as like waves flowing and they need to have balance. Hers, the Force is a harmony for her. So she connects them through this greater harmony, and all these Jedi come together in order to narrowly avoid the great hyperspace disaster. So that's kind of what that references when it's the power of many, is like, hey, this is what we can accomplish when we all become one. And we see it later in this episode when they do the chant, they gain this purple aura because they've all combined to put this energy into one. And now the mother is really creating this energy, and that's when you see the sky change and everything. And that's what gives them, since they're all connected, the power of many connected into one allows them to create whatever that symbol is on her head, which I really wish we got some backstory into this coven. They've done a book already. They did Wayseeker, which shows you how Vernestra connects to this show. We have another book coming out in 2 weeks, which is about Yord and Jeki, which you sent me something about it on Instagram.
Yeah.
But what we need, really, honestly, is a book on these witches. We need to know why these witches barely escaped death and extinction before and what leads them to Brendok. Because right now, we have nothing.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I want to know any more about these witches though. Not like in a fucking bad way. I mean, literally,
Oh,
like
okay.
I mean, like Yoda. Like we
Yeah.
literally know jack shit about Yoda. I mean, sure, in some of my arguments, like I might be like, yeah, they don't fucking explain shit. Some shit needs to be explained, but some of them don't.
Yeah. I just kind of like to know where they came from or where they derive from, because like I do see a relation to the path of the open hand in this and in the beginning part of what they're saying, but they're definitely not path of the open hand, and they're not Nihil, because the Nihil eventually have no force users. So I don't know where they're from or what influences their decision. Just like maybe not even a book, maybe like a one-shot comic that kind of shows like how they get to Brendok, because there's a reason that something drew them there. And I don't know who the greater power is that they, like, you know how they have like Mother Talzin and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
like I don't know if the mother is the great, like Mother Anasaya is the greatest power that they hold on to, especially with what we see with those purple auras around them. There's definitely something else to them, which again, like honestly, this is where I started to change my feeling on one major thing. And the major thing was when I started this, I didn't want a second season. I've closed enough holes, as we'll go through later, and have opened up enough new ones to where I want the second season now. I like this episode was where that officially changed for me. I'm not like gonna start posting renew the Acolyte on everything. But I'm telling you right now that if Disney and Lucasfilm announce at Star Wars Celebration in LA, or they just announce randomly somewhere that they've decided to do a second season of the Acolyte, I'm watching it. And this is the episode where that changed for me.
See, episode 5 kind of it didn't make me think that I want it to continue. I don't want a second season. This show, as it is now, 6 episodes deep, opinion has not changed. It should have been rewritten at the fucking writer's table. It's just bad to me. Would I like to see it redone with different directors and writers? Yes. Would I like to see it more focused on Chimere and the Sith like they promised? Yes. I could give two fucks less about these witches and their twins. Like, I really do not care.
Well, that's where the one shot comic maybe comes in, because I do want to learn a little bit more about the witches personally, but also I am just on a quest for knowledge. Like I've
I guess.
yeah. Well, I've said this recently where like there's a difference where like I used to watch Stupendous and Theory and Explained and all those other Star Wars channels to gain knowledge. And then I'd be like, okay, but honestly, like that's what I want to be. I want to like I don't want to be them. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that I don't want to have to watch another YouTuber to gain knowledge. I want to be the person who imparts knowledge on others. And I think honestly in this rewatch series I'm going to do that in different ways. I mean, we've discussed this on with Optic or wherever, where like he was like, "Hey, I'm not going to watch it again, but like you gave me a lot to think about." And it's like it's those unique perspectives that I just don't think any of the other creators have done. And I think that they can. I don't want to sound like my media literacy is better than theirs, but it's just not a focus for them. I came into this with a singular focus of did I overlook the plot holes, and have I kind of just been bitching about plot holes that have been answered in front of me all along. And like that's my note, like that's my notes here. Like it's kind of like when I'm relating it to the Nihil or relating it the Anakin like prophecy thing and the differences there, like that's what I'm doing, is either creating, I guess, maybe my own justifications and my own headcanon, or just actually in other instances explaining what we're seeing. Like you mentioned in a text to me last night about the bath scene in episode 6, and I told you that that scene is very important. And when we get to episode 6, unless you read the notes that I sent you, Like there is a very specific reason why that's important. And it's something that Kymir has been preaching all along, and it's the meaning behind killing without a weapon as well. That bath scene has a lot of hidden context to it. Is it uncomfortable? Sure, but it has meaning, and we'll discuss that when we get to episode 6
I
because
mean,
it's part of a larger story.
yeah, but I mean, they could have chosen a different way to fucking portray it. But I
I
don't
don't
need to
want to.
see OSHA seeing her third saber within 30 minutes.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it, so I can't even go that much into it. But it's
Oh,
really
I'm gonna check
important to
out your
Chimera's
notes.
story.
I'm gonna see what you're talking about, or when we get done, we can fucking talk.
But it's really important to Chimera's story for me. That scene. He's very relaxed though. It's how relaxed he is all the time is very weird and like a good way. So that's all I'll say about that for now. We'll get there when we get there. So the other thing I have here about using the power of one and the power of two stuff is so right after we go into this talk about the thread and the power of two, Mother Anasiah tests May and Osha. Osha immediately cowers behind May and really like backs off, where May accepts the brunt of this push. And I said, instead of using the power of two like Osha and May should have against the mother, Osha shows the lack of confidence that really is going to hold her back throughout this entire series, where May has enough arrogance and confidence to protect Osha, who was cowering behind her. But I wonder if because they're two children created from the same person, if May already innately has the power of two. Is something that I wrote here because they're the exact same persons. If you double them up, I don't know, is their power levels over 9,000? But that's really what it comes down to is can May hold on for as long as she can because she has the benefit of having two persons DNA in one. Like they're born or created as one is born as two, but like their powers don't split in half. They're the exact same person. Like I'll spoil this, but Torben says it in episode 7. Like there's no genetic difference between these two twins. They are the same person.
Yeah.
I wish the child actors were the same person. If you were going to do it as adults, I wish the child actors were the same. I don't care if they doubled the Osha character or doubled the May character as a child. Like I'm not choosing one of them over the other, but I don't think we needed two different actors and actresses. They're identical. They're identical twins, but they're not identical twins. They're the same person, which is why it works as adults, but it doesn't work as kids because they look so different.
Yeah, I'm not sure to be honest with you. Uh, it well, if they are supposed to, if May has the power of two, I don't know. There's multiple times in this fucking like they're supposed to be the same person, just split into two bodies. You know, one conscious split into two beings. Fucking, there's a lot of times that that OSHA just. I don't know if it's the fact that May completed the ascension, but even as kids, like there was times that May was definitely stronger than OSHA.
Yeah, but May, I think throughout all of this has only ever been stronger because OSHA is so lacking in self confidence. These two should really kind of balance off each other. I'll relate it to something else anime related. I don't know if you ever watched Naruto, but in the very ending of Naruto Shippuden before it becomes Boruto, Sasuke and Naruto go up against each other. And when they collide, because they have been so equal their entire lives, when they finally are now at the point where they're both truly who they are and they collide, they both lose their arms because it is the same power hitting the same power. At least that's the way I interpreted it. And it can't go anywhere. May is only at an advantage right now because she's arrogant and cocky, where Osha um is very shy, she's very shy and she lacks the same self-confidence as them. The other thing about the twins like born as two is that they are the polar opposites of each other. So May is the dark and Osha is the light. Now by the end of this series, that's going to get entirely flipped around because May's going to become a log and Osha is going to become the dark. She's only stronger right now because she has the confidence that Osha lacks.
Yeah, I can see that.
This show also kind of feels very Rian Johnson-y in a way, where like Rian Johnson is truly known for the Knives Out movies. He's a very good who's done it kind of guy and telling stories based on perspective, which is why I think that's why he did the Luke thing the way that he did in episode 8. But here is where we see the first start of like two perspectives. Mother Coral sees the kids around the tree and May torturing that poor fucking butterfly, and she calls them in, and then you see Soul like lurking behind the tree. And from Soul's eye, like it's like, oh my god, it's a Zabrak female. Like the Zabraks have definitely been linked to witchcraft and are naturally dark creatures. Like Coral definitely comes off like a darker person, very harsh. So now that we're here, the girls are training, and Coral hears that sound that is like, oh my god, somebody's lurking. We get the explanation to that in episode 7. Again, that episode wasn't needed. They could have done that all here. But that leads to like Osha and May having a conversation. Like Osha's like, I don't want to be a witch. I'm not going to do this. And May's angry that Osha has a different opinion or wants that for her life. And it's that difference of opinion that I actually have written here resembles modern day in a way, where we've gotten to a point in society where if somebody's opinion differs from yours, it's like, no. Like people will just flat out be like, no, I don't accept it. Or it creates these really intense battles on the internet or even in real life where people just need to be more understanding and asking why. Where May is already convinced that she is going to join the coven and that her twin sister has to do the same. She's not asking why because she doesn't care. And it's that lack of care and compassion that really dooms their relationship from here on out. Where like I said it here, like Osha wants independence where May doesn't care for anything more than the coven. Osha wants the ability to grow into who she is going to be. She doesn't want that dictated for her. Where May is like, this is your destiny.
Just answered one of the questions that I had in my fucking notes, actually.
Yeah.
Because I talked about the twins and Anasai are getting ready for the ceremony, and Osha and May argue about if Osha wants to become a witch because she wants to know if there's more out there than just Brendock, and May says everything she needs. Well, actually, I kind of fucking answered it in my own fucking thing, but
Yeah.
but
Everything
everything
she
she
needs is
needs
there.
from Brendock. But they argue that they aren't the same person, but May says that they are, which I kind of took as like an inclination that like Osha maybe doesn't know that they were one conscience split into two beings, but May has kind of started to piece shit together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, May is more advanced at this younger age,
yeah.
where Osha just has so much more learning to do, and that's because May is dedicated to the coven, where Osha's head is literally in the clouds.
But Osha also says that it just seems that way because they're the only two kids on Brendock. And even on my second watch, I was like, that's not weird to May. She never questions why it's just her and Osha, but then you literally were just like, she doesn't give a fuck. She just doesn't care.
She's this is a cult. Like you gotta understand like cult mentalities. And at the end of the day, once you convince them, like it doesn't matter. Like, and we've seen so many documentaries of people falling into cults and not really understanding that they were in one and then getting out of it. Or some people losing their lives because of a cult leader. Like
Yeah.
I could be wrong here, but I think there's one in history where like everybody there drank some juice and it was all laced with poison. They all died.
There's been multiple. There's
Yeah, and then there's one. I think
like
there's one in
Heaven's
like Texas
Gate.
where they started a fire. Like it was, yeah, it's insane. But the other thing I have about the witches here as well, as I said, like we were talking about them being on the brink of extinction, and why, like I want to know that maybe like in a one-shot comic or something like that. But I said they were on the brink of extinction because of who they are, um, or because who they were as in witches, which isn't much different than the Night Sisters of Dathomir. So I guess the question I want to answer is it in this watch through is how did the life become created? So we don't get that answer. That's basically what that leads to. And I mean, I haven't watched 7 and 8, and so if I watch 7 and it does something different, then maybe I'll find that answer there. As of right now, I don't think I am going to find that answer. We don't really understand how these girls were created, and I don't think we ever will. So I'm going to give up on that right now. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I don't even have anything for it.
And then I have the same thing we talked about already. After the chant, which I wrote here, like it's the only episode where this is okay. If it appears again, make it stop. But also, I just think some of the CGI is creepy. It reminds me of like Mr. Meaty, which is an old Nicktoons show. I don't know. If that's what it's supposed to do, then it's good. If it's not supposed to do that, then God, please make it stop. Witchcraft, I guess, is supposed to be scary to people, and that's what I view them as, is slightly scary, not like I get nightmares or anything, but I just think it's creepy. But I said, and we've talked about it a little bit already, as they start to do the chant, the power of one, the power of two, and the power of many, you can literally see the sky changing as the Force cult ritual begins. So obviously, they do experience some sort of change during this chant. And I said, I don't know if it's due to the Force Nexus on Brendock that we're getting this like aura around them, or if it happens naturally, or if it's some other form of witch ritualistic dark arts. And that's what you were talking about earlier in the beginning. Like when do we get the distinguished difference of what is witchcraft and what is just the Force? Because I don't know if that's a Force aura around them or if that's a witchcraft aura. Or is it just one and the same? Like in Star Wars, is witchcraft just the dark side of the Force?
Like many witches, the Dathomirian section leans towards the dark side, while never specifically siding entirely with Jedi or Sith. There are many different witch clans spread throughout the planet, but the Night Sisters get the lion's share of the focus. Okay, so yeah, it's dark side.
Okay.
I think it also just kind of. I think the aura depends on obviously like different covens and shit, because Dathomirians have green mist. Like all Dathomirians have
Yeah.
that. And I know the Dathomirians were supposed to be these witches, which praise Jesus, Dave Filoni, like this is like the one thing that he was like, fuck no, you can't fucking do that. Because they went to him and was like, yo, we're using Night Sisters. And he was like, no, you're fucking not. You're not using Night Sisters.
I didn't even know that. Like I said, I've been keeping a lot of that out of this, but yeah, that's interesting. I actually am okay not using night witches too. By the way, like I think it's actually better not to use them, especially when the aura is different. When the aura is purple, and the way that they explain things is different. I think that the witches of Dathomir are so much more older than this. The fact that they're barely surviving now, like this band of witches, I think it just shows how ill prepared they were for the times. And then obviously it doesn't matter because they're only going to have two living descendants after this anyway, and neither one is taking up the witchcraft, which is kind of interesting. One of them literally took up the coven that night but does not practice it.
Yeah.
So, but I guess that's because it's all lost and she doesn't have anything to train with. But I don't know. I guess we don't know. But then what I have here is Coral causes a lot of the issues that we're going to see here because she experiences a lot of the same habits as Yord does. Way too uptight, way too much of an asshole. This is what I.
I mean, you're not wrong, dude. I mean, literally, like, Anastasia literally tells her, like, chill, bro. Just
Yep.
chill the fuck out. And she literally might as well have just told her what she tells Soul later on in the episode. Like, I'll fucking cut your tongue out.
Yeah. And then, so this was the episode that sparked the lesbian space witches thing that blew up everywhere. Like, oh my God, lesbian space witches. I had it here earlier, and we haven't discussed it yet. They refer to Mother Anastasia as their mother. That is their mother. Mother Coral, like when they refer to her as Mother Coral, that's not in term of endearment. That is her rank in the coven. So Mother Coral did carry them and birth them. We see that argument. But Coral is not their mother. Anastasia is, which is why they refer to her as Mother Coral. But they refer to the other one as their mother. So I kind of put that to rest here. The lesbian space witches thing, like those are just Like honestly, like if people are gonna hate on things, they gotta find better straws to pull. Cause like the lesbian gay cards are just like that's low hanging fruit, buddy. Find something better to pick on.
Yeah,
Because
I
like I
mean,
don't know, dude. It's 2025 now. Like I mean, I
I
don't know.
just don't.
I could say some things and get myself in trouble here, but
I mean,
like
don't get me wrong, bro. Like, I don't give a fuck if Coral and Anase are getting it on like after
yeah,
hours. I don't give two flying fucks. What I care about is the whole I carried them. Well, I created them. How the fuck did you create them? Why could none of these other fucking force users or other fucking shits do anything like this, even though it's technically an experiment gone wrong? Like, that's just my issue with it, is there's no explanation of how the fuck did you create these? Was Plagueis
yeah,
actually involved, or was he just being a creepy McCreeperson pants and just so
yeah. I
happened
don't
to
think he's
stumble
involved.
upon the last living descendant of some witches that he might have heard about fucking 16 years prior?
Yeah, I think that he stumbles across Chimere is what I'm thinking. Or yeah, he's
They
stumbling across
Wikipedia.
Chimere. He's not stumbling across Osha, even though what she does to Soul in episode 8, like yeah, that's a lot of dark side energy, but that's no different than what Chimere would have done so many years ago. But also
Yeah,
Chimere showed a lot of dark side energy in episode 5. So, which I knew about that. I was actually talking to Jungle last night about it because he was in Denver and they were asking, Star Wars Explained was asking Manny Jacinto about it. And he was the one who was like, yeah, we had to cut this scene, and that's why it's making the rounds now. It's because Manny Jacinto was like, yeah, I took this Jedi's head and I just started bashing it into a skull, or bashing it into a rock repeatedly and destroying his skull. But then they were like, yeah, it's a little brutal. We have to tone it down. It's like,
what we need.
could you imagine? Could Dude, please let that scene be with Yord. Let that be the original death
Bro, I
scene for
think
Yord.
it was. I think that was yours original death.
But I think it's that first. It's one of the first guys who dies up against the rock. I think is the one who originally had his head snapped. But like, be Yord. Sorry, Yord. Like your
It's all right,
character
bro.
did a great.
He's coming to
You're
Ocala Comic Con. I'll ask him.
Yeah, whoever your actor's name is, like you did such a good job of making me hate this character. Like your acting for this was 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I
Your
think his
Star
name's like
Wars
Paul
knowledge
Burns or something like
not
that.
not so good. His Star Wars knowledge not so good. His acting pretty good.
I mean, I say the same thing about Moses Ingram and Reva. Fucking hate the character. Fucking 10 out of 10 on her for making me hate that fucking character.
Yeah, like Cyril's mom.
Oh my god, dude. My
I don't
god,
think
I
I've
got
ever
a
hated
lot.
anybody more in Star Wars than her.
I got a lot to say about her in my fucking review, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. And then so the Jedi show up here and they have this
Immediately give a
conversation.
child a lightsaber. Don't understand what's with Jedi and giving kids immediate danger weapons like that,
You
but
give them shiny toys, bro. So they're like, "Oh, here's a fancy toy. Do you want to hold it?" And it's like, "Yeah." And then, but they say this line here, not the Jedi, the witches, which I wish they actually had a name. They say it's about power and who is allowed to use it. And that is one thing that the Nihil and the Path of the Open Hand, and so there's this other one I've been missing here. They start off as the Path of the Open Hand 250 years, no, 150 years before the events of the first book that I showed, Light of the Jedi. And then during that time, it's the Path of the Open Hand. They become deceived. They become more violent. They become the path of the closed fist because obviously closed fist hurt, where open hand is giving. And then they become the Nihil. And their major conflict is the Jedi's use of the Force. And it's that they have this power and they deem who can use it and who can't. It's also the same thing that Chimere says. Like, what do I want? I want the ability to use my powers the way that I see fit. And then it kind of made me think in that moment, like, does he just crave murder or was murder just on the table that night? Like, if he just wants to wield his power, is it just wielding the power in the aggressive means? Like, or is it just wielding the power the way that he sees fit anyway?
I think it's wielding power as he sees fit, like his own version of justified good, I guess. But
Yeah.
even in episode 5, like he straight up says, like, this is the Jedi's fault. I don't make the rules, you do. You say I can't exist. Therefore, she exposed me. Now you all have got to go.
Yep. But he's actually the one who originates the attack. And we'll get to that in episode 5. So we'll discuss that more then. But it is this power dynamic where the Jedi have always seen themselves as high and mighty, and they're very dogmatic in it. It's like we're allowed to use it because we do good on our own, like in our own minds, but we don't actually do good, which is kind of related to something else from what I know about legends or stuff created for that. Like the reason why Grievous is the way that he is because his people were the good guys for that thing, but the Jedi didn't agree with them. So the Jedi sided with the other people, and there was just this giant conflict in a war, and then Grievous winds up taking arms, and that's why he really hates the Jedi's because the Jedi decided that even though his people were the ones, and I could be wrong here, but if like his people were the ones like beat down and oppressed, and then they're trying to rise up and say like, hey, we're not going to stand for this, but the Jedi are like, hey, we like when these people are in control. So they kind of do these things where the Jedi supersede powers when they seem fit, and they give help to those that deem fit, like kind of like we were talking about Revan, like where Revan takes on Mandalore the Great, and he puts on the Mandalorian helmet and he vows not to take it off until the war's done. But the Jedi don't agree with it. So it's just another one of those moments here that the witches are like, you'd rather us be dead than know that we exist.
Yeah. I do kind of have a question about the High Republic Jedi because
Yeah.
obviously since we're talking about like the Jedi showing up, they I say may complete the ascension, but Osha hesitantly agrees to do it. But before they can do anything, the Jedi show up and someone says to hide the children, which makes no sense because according to my knowledge, you can just tell the Jedi no. But Indara says under Republic law and then gets cut off. In the High Republic, is it like actually a law that any like force wielding child has to be trained to be a Jedi or something? Like, can they not tell the Jedi no?
Not that I've experienced. They haven't really touched on it. Their greater conflict is just with the Nihil at this time. But I think that is a Republic law, and that's the reason why the Jedi get so many Force sensitive children. Is that when the Jedi find the Force sensitive children, they have the right to check them, and that's probably gone on for more than just the High Republic. It was probably established during the Old Republic in either canon. So they've always kind of had the right, which is why remember at the end of Fallen Order where Cal Kestis has the holocron and he just destroys it.
Yeah.
He's giving those people a choice because he knows that like what the Jedi have done isn't good either. Like indoctrinating all these children. Like the Jedi are not good. They are a cult in their own right. They just do better. And that's why like when you read a lot of these books and the Jedi say why they do certain things, that's why they all sound like they don't really agree because none of them knows truly what the hell they're doing.
Actually, now that you mentioned that it might have been a thing in the Old Republic, it sort of kind of was already starting because in the Bane trilogy, in the first book, they talk about like everybody at the Sith Academy in Korriban is like, "Yo, no, we can't admit Bane. Fucker's way too old. Like he's gonna be a pain in the ass to train." And I forget the name of the Sith Lord, but he's like the main dude, and he's like
That
battling
sounds
against
like
no better.
Anakin.
What?
So that sounds like Anakin. Oh, he's too old. He can't be trained.
Well, Bane is the Sithari, in my opinion, the Sith chosen one. So, but I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's a mantle that gets passed down to each generation because that's a different topic. But they literally say like, if we do that, we're no better than the Jedi because the Jedi keep going younger and younger to the point where they're going to be taking infants. It's like they're
Yep.
not taking infants yet, but they're getting to that point. And this is like 3,500 years after Revan and the Mandalorian War and all that shit. So,
Yeah. I that is probably what leads up to it. So yeah, you are right. They are probably on the right track. And yeah, we just see them take all these children. It's like, hey, if your child can do unique abilities, take them to the temple and they will be tested. And like they're able to test these children and then they keep them and they keep them away from their families. Where like when Leia asked Obi-Wan if he had a family, and he's like, I think I had a brother, but he was too young to remember who they were.
yeah.
I also like that Obi-Wan's from the planet of Stew John. So this is where also like during this moment is where I corrected myself on the Nihil thing that I said earlier, but I've already corrected it. But I said maybe I misunderstood earlier about how the thread works. Maybe they're saying that they're allowed to use the Force as they please, but in a way that is different from how the Jedi do it. The Jedi tell everyone that everything is their destiny, or if the Force allows it. But what if the Force doesn't have to allow it? What if you're just able to make it happen? And that's what they mean by pulling on the thread. Like when you pull it, it links you to your destiny. So you can make it happen. The Force doesn't have to will it. And the Force didn't will these twins for Osha and May. These people literally forced it to happen. So that's what I had for that to kind of go along with what I was talking about, like butterfly effects and different things earlier in the episode. But after that, that's where my notes end because my last notes here, we've talked about it. We've already beat it so much like a dead horse that I don't even want to talk about it anymore. But in this episode is where the fire happens and people complain about the rocks being on fire, but then a lot of people refuse to add all the other inconsistencies of Star Wars.
Before we talk Force Mountain fucking explosion bullshit, I want to talk about like them doing their test after they finally like get Mother Anastasia to agree to let them be tested and all that. And one of the like that weird Maz Kanata Elder Witch lady is like, well, just have the girls fail the test. One, it's supposed to be
She's the one that creeps me out. She's the Mr. Meaty.
but it's supposed to be a blood sample, and you basically predict pictures on an iPad. How are you going to fail the blood test? First of all, like that makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever. Two, I put it in here. Anastasia tells the girls to say what is the opposite of what's in their heart, and that'll fool the Jedi. Are they strong with force deception? They must be, because a literal child manages to fool four whole ass Jedi, and only one of them is a fucking Padawan. May lies no problem to the Jedi, but they managed to see through Osha's lies and get, I don't know if it was like they saw through her lies and they basically like tricked her into being like, hell, that wasn't a fucking rabbit or whatever the fuck it was or whatever. But they are like, did somebody tell you to fail this test? Like, there unless May is super powerful or Anastasia is completely mind fucked these guys into not being able to tell what the fuck is going on, because even later on in the series, Jedi not very good in the force aspect of anything regarding sensing shit. To
I
me,
think you're
there's no way that they didn't realize that this fucking 8-year-old was lying.
Yeah, that's where you're thinking too hard. They knew May was lying the entire time. They wanted the one that was conflicted. So Osha was the one who wanted to see the Jedi weapon. May was the one who was like, don't do this. They knew that May didn't want to go. So the Jedi being the Jedi, they weren't going to force her. But they knew that Osha had conflict. And that's when Soul is like, correct. And then she was like, what do you mean I was correct? And he's like, gotcha, bitch. And but they did that on purpose. May did not deceive them, not one bit.
Okay.
They knew exactly what she was doing, but they also knew that she was okay being where she wanted to be. They also knew that Osha was conflicted and could sense her feelings and knew that she wanted to be elsewhere in the galaxy. So that's why they pulled the rug out from underneath her feet there to mess with her, because they knew where she wanted to be. They just needed to get her to talk. So they were not deceived by May. The Jedi, honestly, there's probably been generations of people who've tried that trick and they see through it. But the Jedi, truthfully, even though they are indoctrinating children, they do only want the children that also want to be there. They don't want to keep those that don't. So that's why Osha fails to deceive when May doesn't fail to deceive. And it's because they know Osha wants to be there. But also, like, Soul during all this is just so creepy. Like, dude, he's like, and we know why in episode 7. It's pretty much his fucking ego got challenged. So it was like, oh, you've never had a Padawan, Soul. And he's like, I'll fucking show you. I'll get one right now. And that's pretty much what this whole show is about, is Soul being an asshole. Everybody's like, you know what? I'm just going to change the name of the series. 1 year later, everyone's an asshole. So,
No,
because that's what it
this
is.
series definitely needs to be titled somewhere in a book for how many
Yeah.
times we have brought up shit being in books.
Yeah, shit being in books, or me calling somebody an asshole. Like, so this is reference to Spaceballs. I had such a good time watching that movie. That's where like movie nostalgia and video game nostalgia are different for me. So like I'll watch older movies. Like I still remember this movie from school. I've been telling people about it recently called
I probably know what it is.
Stand and Deliver.
Nope, never mind.
Yeah,
Never mind, I have seen this movie.
yeah. I think they've shown it in like every school, even the homeschool show it. Well, yeah, so they see through her deception pretty easily, and they want Soul just really wants a Padawan, is what that comes down to, and that's why that happens during the test. And then they go back, and then obviously we get the fight. That's why actually that's where my notes end early, is because I've already like in my head had already explained that part to myself, and then just got to where we are, where the rock is on fire, and the rock is on fire because, and that's it.
See, I didn't even talk about like the stone and the electrical grid like catching fire. I put here OSHA goes to pack her things and May gets pissed again, says that she'll stop OSHA from leaving, and locks her sister in a room and sets the fucking mountain on fire. Say what you will about that. That's the first decision that this bitch makes.
Yep, is I'm gonna kill you. If I can't have you, nobody can. May is just a deranged person, and like I think she wanted to start the fire to try to convince OSHA maybe not to, but then it spreads because it does, and then she gets scared. May was just as scared during this whole event as OSHA was. It was just she let her anger get the better of her when she started the fire.
Yeah. I mean, I've made some pretty bad decisions in my life, but I don't think that I've ever set my house on fire because my sister pissed me off.
You have anything else that was maybe confusing you that like I can try to interpret, or anything else to add for this episode?
Well, I mean, it kind of gets answered in episode 7, and you kind of already said it. Fucking Soul's ego practically gets fucking questioned and rocked and shook. But I talked about how he breaks the news to OSHA, tells her that they can't go back, nothing is there, that she can train as his Padawan. And I'm a bit confused as if this dude is a knight, a Padawan, a master, because
No, he's a master.
he's a master, but he's never had a fucking Padawan. That makes no fucking sense. The whole reason why they wanted to give Anakin a Padawan was to show him the fucking loss of attachment so he could become a master.
They don't do a good job of like aging him forward either, because like Indara is clearly a master, but I forget what they said in episode 7, but I think they say why he's never had a Padawan, and I think it's just because he's an idiot.
Either that or he's too fucking attached and too emotional and shit.
Yeah.
Get
He's
bro,
definitely
fucking-
he's definitely strong. Like he's such a strong character in the Force, but he's so strong in both sides of the Force because he feels so deeply all the time. He should have
Yeah.
never been a Jedi. They should have kicked his ass off the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But for my, I guess, ending shit, I said overall this episode felt a little short, and we could see later in the series that episode 7 honestly should have been released with this as episode 4, or maybe combine the episodes, get the witch POV in the first 30 minutes and the Jedi POV in the last 30, while kind of doing what they did and editing in the nooks and crannies, like with Soul fucking being the noise that Mother Coral hears, blah blah blah, all that.
Yeah.
So the story for this episode is all right to say the least. The backstory being so close to Anakin with the no father and OSHA being accepted to the Jedi under extreme circumstances honestly just takes away from any creativity they could have done with this. Not a fan of how they portray the Jedi in this show, but I am giving it a pass. I'm giving it a pass because the Jedi are starting to head down the road that we do see in the prequels. I just wish they just didn't try to beat it over my head that Jedi equal bad. That is a literal fucking argument that is made in this episode between OSHA and May. Overall, were you laughing or were you about
Jedi, the Jedi are bad because this show is told from that point of view. That's why they've actually released books called Star Wars from a certain point of view. This is supposed to be a darker side Sith-based show, which is why the Jedi are bad. That's why in the book of Boba Fett looks good. Is not because he's actually good. It's because it's the point of view of the show that makes it good. Honestly, like we're not I can almost promise you we're going to see it in the mall show where there will be times, even though it's bad guys and worse guys, there will be times that the worst guys are going to make Maul look like the good guy. And it's just the point of view of the show. So that's why the Jedi are bad, because their way of living contradicts with the way of living of these witches. That's why the Jedi equal bad for this, and that's why bad always equals red. Which we'll get to in another episode.
Okay, yeah, okay. Now that you say that, I can I can see that.
That's a justification I had. It's not like that's pretty much all this ever is for anybody. It's all justifications or head canons or where your headspace is at. That's where mine's at.
Hell yeah. But I said, honestly, I can't give this episode more than like a 3.5. Said it last year, and I'm sure I'll say it more in episode 7, and I'll continue to say it. It just feels like they tried to do a soft reboot of The Phantom Menace. Sure, there were some interesting things that I noticed in here, like the purple hue when the witches do the ascension ceremony, and some more foreshadowing of the twins being one conscience split into two people. Other than that, 3 episodes in, I'm not a fan of the show. None of the music has stood out to me. Hopefully, the next episodes will give me some answers to my questions.
That's not bad at all. I think you'll get some answers, whether those answers are from the show or whether those answers are from my own head canon as well. And then I get like and then same thing, and that's why we're doing this is like you come up with points that I don't see, and I come up with points that maybe you don't see, and that's like this is the yin and yang. We are the yin and yang of Star Wars. Where you give it a 3, I'll probably go on the opposite side of the spectrum. So you're 3.5. I think I'm close to it, like a 6.5 on this one. I thought it was okay. I think I was excited. This was, like I said, this was really the turning point for me where I started finding different things and answers to stuff that I wanted from before. And so I am a little more lenient on it. I'll give this one a 6.5. Maybe truly deserves a 6, but I'm giving it the half.
Yeah, I think, like I said, episode 5, I think, is where my major shift is from not wanting it to be renewed to, yeah, I still don't want it to be renewed. Fuck no, I don't want to see a season 2 of this. But if they were to redo it, and whatever the fuck season 2 was supposed to be with Plagueis and Chimere and Palpatine down the line, that's the fucking show. No OSHA, no May, no none of that bullshit. I'm here for it. I'd
Man,
rather it be the Chimere show. I mean, he steals everything. He's the best part of this show.
See, I think the continuation of the story was going to go that way, where it was actually the Chimere and OSHA thing, and then they try to piece together May's mind, and then they really ultimately this all comes to a head in probably I think it was going to be 3 seasons long. And the way that this was going to end was with a final conflict between May and Osha, Chimere and Vernestra. The twins die because I said so, and then I think Chimere would kill Vernestra. I think Chimere would get the better of him, and then ultimately Plagueis comes in and does whatever he has to do. But I think you would need 3 movies, or not 3 movies, 3 seasons, because the second season is going to be piecing together May's mind, figuring out where they are, kind of what Osha's doing, the connection with Plagueis. I don't know who would voice Plagueis. I think if it's going to be a CGI character like that, honestly, like get Mark Thompson or get some of those people in there. These fucking Audible narrators who do such a good job. Like give
Mark
them the
Thompson
credits
or
they
Andy
deserve.
Serkis, one of the two.
Andy Serkis has already had too much already. You got fucking Kino and Snoke. He's done. No more for you, Andy Serkis. No more Star Wars. Calm down. But I don't know if I'd even like it to have that kind of voice. Whoever narrates it in the Plagueis novel, whoever does that narration, he's Plagueis. Let him do the voice.
Well, see, that's my issue is if like they do a season 2 or if they completely redo it, just get James Luceno and fucking adapt the Plagueis novel. That is the fucking Acolyte right there. I don't understand why that was so fucking hard for them to do or why or how this show just came to fucking suck. But 300 something $1 million and it looks like a CW $15 million show.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't know.
I
The
can't say
money
that it looks like that just yet. We're not at episode 7. That's where it really shits the bed with the fucking CGI.
the money thing, I don't know. I don't know what goes into making any of these. And I mean, I remember when people were making that argument, and if you ever like root through my threads thing, you'll see like a comment I had. Every episode's about an hour, so it's 8 hours worth of content. If you compare it to the 2.5 hours of Revenge of the Sith, like the Revenge of the Sith spent just as much. Money isn't the same. So when you see these big budgets and shit, like it just the dollar amount, even from 20 years ago, like, dude, you go to the dollar store and get some good shit. You can't get nothing today for $1. Like honestly, like dude, like you get Tooth Fairy come, you get like $5. I mean, you get like $2-3 for like a tooth. Nowadays, you can't do anything fucking less than 10 because you can't go to Walmart and get anything less than 10. So the value of the dollars changed. So I don't know what the correct amount of money that should have been spent. I don't know if 400 million is the right amount, especially like if Obi-Wan was able to do it with less and the first season of Andor was able to do it with less, then try to make the dollars make sense. I don't know how much of that goes into getting Carrie Ann Moss and Lee John Jay or whatever. Like those are the two big name guys, especially him coming off of Squid Games. So I don't know what they spent to get those.
If it was Carrie Ann Moss, easiest fucking paycheck of her goddamn life. Show
Yeah.
up, fucking say some monotone lines, and fucking die. Fuck yeah.
Yep. Yeah, she only does what, 4 of the episodes, 3 of the episodes.
She's in
She
episode
does.
1 and episode 7.
She's in this one too. She's in 1, 3, and 7.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she got paid. She got paid for 3 episodes. So that's budget. So if it is any of those two people that I named that really increased the budget, luckily they won't be in season 2 because they're gone. But with that being said, I think that's a good place to wrap up this episode. Like I said in the intro, watch it on both of our channels. The way we edit it is different. The way we portray or the things we leave in, things we don't leave in, they're different. We are doing this together, but we have our channels. Support Star Wars Nerd 00. Follow Tales of Peridia on all socials, not just YouTube, but Instagram, Twitter. I know you're barely on Threads, but on Threads as well. Any place you can find some content of Star Wars Nerd and some Tales of Peridia, get it. And also, make sure you're following us at Clone Force 97. We're either Clone Force 97 or Clone Force 97 Pod, depending on where you find us. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Share this stuff with your friends because I think, are doing a job that should have been done a year ago. And where we're really educating each other and our audiences on the Acolyte. Whether we decide that the show still sucks, like we've clearly done a good job at diving deeper into this show, getting explanations to a lot of questions that I had when I first started this rewatch series again. And that's what makes this so good. So, like I said, share this with all your friends. Like, follow, subscribe. Clone Force 97, Star Wars Nerd 00, Tales of Peridia. And we will see you next week.
Peace.